ladies and gentlemen, the policy put forth by the opposition, by the proposition here today, basically is something that does not solve the problem, but instead creates more problems. Now, in my speech today, basically I'll be talking about, firstly, the feasibility of their whole policy, which is not very clear from proposition. And I'll be talking about their two main arguments, firstly about duty of care, whether the government should be involved, and about the society's mindset that we should do something to incentivize them. And of course, finally, I'll be clearing up the misunderstandings by the opposition about the opposition's case. Now, firstly, about the feasibility of their whole policy here. So let us take a look, let us try and recap what basically the proposition put forth. So basically they said that a person who go to hospital, get checked by a nutritionist, come back 1 month later, if the person has, as deemed by a nutritionist, led a more healthier lifestyle, which we assume as losing more weight, the person would be awarded a sum of money between £50 to £100. Now, firstly, both sides of the house agree on the very fact that that old habits die hard. Basically, that because let's look at what the proposition has said about the society's mindset, where there's no time to exercise, and that's why we should put in money to incentivize them. So we look at that, right, by saying that when you put in money, basically it does not give them a big enough incentive, because society already, the people, obese people, already do not have the time to exercise. So 50 to 100 pounds would not be so big to actually force them to go in and to lose weight and lead a more healthier lifestyle. And also we look at their whole policy, which basically makes it optional for them. So a person can choose whether or not to go in and lead a healthier lifestyle and get the money in turn. So this it's not a 100% thing. It's not a 100% thing. It's not big enough. It does not provide big enough results to actually outweigh the harms, which I'll be talking about later, of course, on abuse. So, firstly, we look that the whole policy is optional, so it will not produce as much results, and that already old habits die hard. And when we look at the nature of a habit, lifestyle, when a person who eats unhealthily for the whole of his life sees 50 pounds, maybe because he wants the extra money, he goes in, let's say, okay, with a favorable situation in the proposition policy, but a person goes in and loses the weight for that 1 month. Now, Mr. Speaker, what makes the proposition actually say that the person would have an incentive to keep the weight off? Because he could just get that 50 to 100 pounds and go back to that unhealthy lifestyle. So there's no real incentive to maintain that healthy lifestyle, Mr. Speaker. So we see that this policy would not work. Now, on the second level, on how their policy is not feasible, basically it's the whole issue of abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, abuse is something that should not happen. So this is, how will it happen? Basically is that people, to gain that short-term monetary gain, again short-term, they will basically just lose the weight and again go back. So they just want the money. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's this whole issue of abuse. Even healthy people, there's this potential just to gain the extra 50 to 100 pounds, they could gain a bit of weight. And then
you're out of order, you have to accept or deny.
No thank you, man. And of course, they just gain the weight and in the end go to a nutritionist, say, okay, yeah, hi, I'm overweight, I would like to lose some weight. And under their policy, they lose the weight back to normal, they gain the 50 pounds. So there's this whole issue here of abuse. So basically, there's this problem of infeasibility of their policy on two levels. They're optional, and that this whole policy is optional, does not force people to go in, and there's no choice for them to go in, and it's also susceptible to abuse. So basically what we see here is a policy that's not effective and instead creates more problems. So we'll talk about how the first argument brought up about the whole duty of care by the government. So what we have said here from our very first speech onwards, is not the role of the government to step in with such extreme measures as to pay people just to lose a bit of weight. So it's not because leading a healthy lifestyle, Mr. Speaker, is something that is personal. First and foremost, it's not the responsibility of the government. It's the responsibility of the people, of the person themselves, to choose whether or not he or she wants to lead a lifestyle. Because you see, if the person actually makes the choice here, and they will be more incentivized to actually continue with it. But if you look at the proposition's policy, they just go in for the monetary gains, short-term monetary gains, and there's no real incentive to continue long term. So if we leave it to the people, the responsibility of the people, they will be more inclined to continue with it for the long term and for the long haul. So we see here that it's not the duty of the government to step in and be involved. Now, before I move on, are there any points of?
Are you saying these people are actually happy to lead an unhealthy lifestyle and wouldn't be influenced by?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there are people who are happy, perfectly fine, even though they may be sick. But because we see, as the proposition firstly has said in their first speech, apparently 1/4 of all people in UK are overweight. So if they are completely unhappy, they would make the choice themselves to lose the weight. If they are happy, they will remain in their habit. So because you look at that fact, so these people, they do not see that the monetary gains is something that's so huge to actually change. Maybe they get it for the short term again, but then they can just as easily, because there's no clause in their policy to have it incentivized for long term. So let's look at again the society's mindset, which that would not change in the long term with the monetary gain, short term monetary gain, because it's not sufficient. So let's clear up the misunderstanding brought forth by the opposition, by the proposition. So basically they said that campaigning, current status quo won't work. What we are putting forth here, again, is because of the very fact that our first speaker brought up that it's not the role of the government to get involved, so that campaigning, it may not work. So what we're saying here is, we go with the current status quo, but of course we continue with the campaigns, that hopefully the people would be changed, because again, it's a personal choice, and the government should not step in, and that is why we are saying that the current status quo, we should follow it, and that is why you should go with the opposition. Thank you.